Mail service throughout the country is still on hold as the Canada Post strike enters its second week. More than 55,000 Canada Post workers went on strike last Friday, disrupting mail and parcel deliveries across the country. Their union is asking for a 24% wage increase over 4 years, while the corporation is offering 11.5%. Canada Post says progress was made, but warned there is still a lot of ground to cover. Canada Post released a statement today regarding the ongoing strikes, which reads in part, "We remain committed to reaching new agreements at the bargaining table. Our plan has always been to continue operating and maintain this vital service, even in the event of rotating strikes by the union." And for more on this, I'm joined live now by Ian Lee with Carleton University's Sprott School of Business. Ian, thanks so much for joining us today.
My pleasure, CJ.
Now, even you have been studying the Crown Corporation for quite some time now, and you say it won't survive unless it dramatically transforms its business model. Why is its current method just not working?
Well, I did two studies, one in 2015 and another just this last fall. And I used the data, the trend data, only from the audited annual reports of Canada Post. In other words, these aren't my opinions or feelings or something. It's the data of what's going on. So to your question, letter mail peaked in Canada in 2006. Since then, it has gone down every year, every year, every year. It is now down 70%. Most organizations, probably all organizations, if they lost 70% of their customers, they would be in very, very deep trouble. Why is the letter mail vanishing? Because of the digitization of everything informational, the payment system, newspapers, the media, banking, university records, hospital records, anything that's information is being digitized, and we're just not, nobody writes letters anymore. We use our smartphones and send text and social media and so forth. On the parcel side, and this is really what this strike is about, in my opinion, they're not competitive with the gig operators. The gig operators are much less costly per hour that they're on the road. They're literally about 2/3 cheaper per hour than Canada Post. And so what Canada Post is trying to do is hire part-time people at much lower wages so that they can compete with the gig workers, because the e-commerce companies are shifting from Canada Post, which is much more costly, to the gig workers, which is less expensive. And that's why they've got this crisis. Their two major product lines are collapsing.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the parcel deliveries. You mentioned that Canada Post is just not competitive. What does it need to do to be competitive and thrive in that industry, even though it's kind of late to get in right now?
It is late. They should have done this 10 years ago. Canada Post, the management, I'm not blaming Cup W, the management of this company squandered 10 years of opportunity when they should have. These numbers have been going down since 2006, long before 10 years ago in 2015. The trend data was there in their own reports, but they didn't go quickly enough. Yes, they had a parcel post function, but they should have put all hands on deck and really pivoted. They didn't, but it's not too late. It's yes, it's a quarter to midnight, so they've got some time left. They've got to pivot completely and as I said, focus exclusively or almost exclusively on parcels, because letters are vanishing. In another 5, 7, 10 years from now, there'll be no letters left. None. Gone. Forget community mailboxes. Forget mail going to the door. It's going to be parcels or nothing. And this market's exploding because e-commerce is growing at 10% a year. So they've got to create a parcel post company that does not go to 17 million addresses 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year. That's the letter model. The parcel model, which we all know, is you only go to the house when you have a parcel to take to the house. You don't go there otherwise. But the letter model says we're going to go to every house in this country every day of the week, even if we've got nothing to take there. That model is unsustainable. They've got to go to the parcel post model. We only deliver when there's something to deliver to one specific address. It will be a much smaller post office, a much, much smaller post office, but it can survive.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the strike here. So, like you mentioned, Canada Post is bleeding money, and wages are the main sticking point in the strike. Workers want over a 20% wage increase over the next 4 years. How do you envision this strike ending with Canada Post clearly not having the money right now?
Well, that's right. And I think that I just assume, I do not have any inside information, but I assume that behind the scenes, the Canada Post is getting their marching orders from the shareholder, which is the government of Canada. They own 100% of the shares, and they're going to have to bail out Canada Post in early 2025 because the CFO of Canada Post and the CEO late last summer said that Canada Post is going to run out of money, cash, in early 2025. That means the government of Canada is going to have to bail them out. So I think that the government is telling Canada Post management, hold the line. And so this strike is going to go on until one of the two parties blinks, which is what strikes are about. It's about you're communicating the relative power of each side to take a strike. And so I don't think the government's going to intervene. I take their word, the minister's word at this. It's not essential anymore, unlike the old days when it was the national payment system of Canada in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Those days are gone because of the digitization of the payment system. I know CUPW said that they're delivering the checks, and that's good of them, that's nice of them. But I checked with Service Canada on their website, 91% of all the checks in this country issued by the government of Canada, old age pension checks, CPP, EI, are electronic deposited. There's only 9% left that still go in the mail. And things like a postal strike are going to incentivize those people still using the mail to go and do direct deposit and seek out alternatives. So this strike, I think, is going to hurt both CUPW workers and Canada Post.
Some very interesting points. Thank you so much for this analysis. We really appreciate it, Ian.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.